Hey, good morning. Isn't it beautiful out, eh? Look at that, man. It's just blinding. So nice out. But hey, happy Mother's Day. I just wanted to say something to y'all this morning before we head off to join our friends up in London in church. And so, hey, we've been talking about women and leadership, and I just want to encourage you with something this morning. The question about, can women be pastors? And then, so the question is right away, well, what is a pastor really? I think that has really been misunderstood, the whole title of a pastor. Just because you hold the title of a pastor or somebody calls you pastor doesn't mean that you're the one to control everything or the one to make sure everybody obeys what you say, and that you're the only one that hears God, and then God speaks to you, and then you speak to the people. That's not at all what it is. And I believe a pastor is someone that oversees, because somebody's overseeing. When there's a group of people, when there's things going on, there's always somebody overseeing something. When a shepherd would go out to look over the sheep, he's overseeing them. He's not controlling them, he's overseeing them. And so I think someone that a pastor, the qualifications of a pastor, what calls them a pastor, someone that shows people to the great shepherd. You're not the one controlling and making sure that they're in line, that they stay within the fence, because I've heard some say, oh, well, there's healthy fences, and we're the ones to make sure to enforce that fence and make sure they don't crawl over that fence, because we don't want them to get out of control. But we're to show them the great shepherd, which is Jesus Christ, and to just point and to help and to let them know they can hear God for themselves. And that's the mission. That is to let people know that that God is in favor of them, and they can hear God for themselves. And I think he can help people do that, because there's a lot of messed up things going on in this world. But anyway, hey, so women pastors. Pastor is often actually entitled in many ways. There's even coaches, there's teachers, there's even in schools, even in the job description, sometimes they even have the word pastoral in there, because it takes overseeing and leading and so on. So the one verse I want to talk about today is actually in Timothy chapter 3. 1 Timothy 3 talks about the qualifications of a leader, and you might say, well, I don't see any women pastors named in the Bible. Actually, there's no men pastors in the Bible either, because it's not used. There's elders, there's deacons, there's leaders, but you won't find a guy named saying, hey, I'm pastor so-and-so. Nope, there's none of that either. So but I want to point something out in 1 Timothy that has a lot of people, that's their foundation. See, only men have to be pastors, because only men can do it. They have no other reason but to quote this one verse, or this one portion of scripture. There's actually in 1 Timothy 3, and then there's Titus talks about it as well. 1 Timothy 3, I'll read it as so. It says that this is a true saying: if a man desires the office of a bishop, he desires a good work, which, a pastor. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, names all the different things, and while his own house, having his children in subjection, and so on and so on. So there's like 10 gender specific words in there: he, his, him, and so on. Husband. But so the question is that, well, see, it's supposed to be a man. But actually, if you actually look at the Bible, go to the Greek, you want to go look at it, you actually want to look at all those gender specific words are not in the Bible. Their translators somehow decided to put them in there. And they're actually, those words are all gender neutral. They're not gender specific. And so it's just so simple. And then you might say, well, he says the husband of one wife. So specifically men, right? The husband, he's speaking to the husband. Well, he's specifically naming different things, to me, like that, what they should be. If you want to be a leader, if you want to see a good, faithful leader, this is what they should be. And so he points out certain issues: to be sober, to be vigilant, and different things. And then he says, husband of one wife. So the problem back then was that husbands would have many wives. And one of the signs of a man having multiple wives just showed that you're not a very faithful man. So therefore, how can I trust you to lead a church or a flock or a people, So he specifically points that out, because women didn't have multiple husbands. So he didn't have to point out that issue, because that was just not a problem back then. But the problem was that men were having multiple wives, and therefore you can't trust them because they can't even keep it together with one woman. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. It's all good. It's so simple. It's so, some were saying, well, just look at nature. Men have to be in control. Men have to be leaders. Just look at nature. I'm not sure where they're pulling that off, because there's many parts in nature where the queen, the female of the species, is quite obviously in control and leading. Look at the bees. The queen is the most important. Wherever the queen is, everybody else goes. So obviously the queen is the pasture and the bees. But I'm just gonna say again, if God has given you a gift of leading, or inspired you to lead, or to initiate, to pastor, because pastoring, if you're a mother, you're a pastor, because you lead and teach and oversee a group of people. And so it doesn't mean that if once it gets to so and so many people, you can do it in the home. There's so many in the New Testament. Paul specifically told them to greet. There was a Priscilla and Aquila that had been together with him and fought with him. Priscilla was imprisoned with him, and he really mentions her. There's Chloe and many more that he mentions in Romans. Read Romans 16, I believe it is, at the end. And he mentions women of her people. Chloe says her people have pointed out that there's something wrong in the church. So her people, he mentions her people. So they're obviously like leaders, and they're doing home churches, and they were doing it in their home. So I'm just going to go back to, like, if God has called you to lead, and there's, I see it all the time. Like there's couples where obviously the woman likes to initiate, likes to lead, is the one to speak up. And the man is more laid back, like more relaxed, doesn't really want to, but is kind of pressured because, everybody else sees it, that if the man needs to be the leader, the woman needs to be the one quiet. That's a good spiritual home. That's a good God kind of structure home. Because if it does anything else, God forbid, it's going to fall apart and get destroyed. I'm not sure what are you afraid of the world falling apart if the women lead? Oh man. My favorite quote that I saw the other day, there's this conference, there's this big convention actually in Florida. It talks about how to improve your wife. You can send your wife there, and because women really need dominant men leaders, or else they're not in their true purpose. That's what they were saying. This is out in the open. Oh man, this is so funny, but I'm having a lot of fun, and you gotta have fun. You gotta have fun in what God has called you to do. Don't be like somebody else. Don't try to lead through others. Like I see couples where the woman is obviously leading in many ways, but does it through the husband. The husband doesn't want to do it, but the woman wants to, but she's afraid, or is being criticized, or is being seen as rebellious just because she wants to speak up, she wants to initiate, she wants to lead in some way, or has a gift in any way. I just say be you. Be who you are. If I'm okay, you husband, you man, if you don't want to lead, if you don't feel like that's your gift and what you're doing, you have something else that's more in the background, or you just like to do what is really you, just do you. You will be the most effective, most free being yourself and what God has called you to be. Like, God didn't give you a gift that you don't like doing, because it's not like he's gonna send you to a third world country to be a missionary, and you don't like that, because God is, teaching you something through that, teaching you submission by, you really want to lead, but you have to suffer and put yourself down to not lead, because God's teaching you patience or submission. Wow, like how can you do anything if you're constantly fighting with yourself? Anyway, have fun. And then my wife is looking at me. We need to go. We're late. But yeah, we're going to go and have some fun. And happy Mother's Day to you awesome mothers. And we'll see you next time.